All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Steve Penrod. I am the CTO of Mycroft, and today's going to have our weekly Founders Chat. I will be hosting it on my own here from Kansas City. So I am currently in the lead bank facility that we got access to as part of our Tech Week competition. In the previous 6 weeks, I have been in Portland, Oregon, working with Jaguar Land Rover as part of their innovator team there. And that's largely what I want to talk about today, that relationship that we've developed with Jaguar, and a little bit of the what's and the whys and the hows of that, and why I believe it's a good idea for Mycroft to be involved with a car company like Jaguar Land Rover. A couple of months ago, we were contacted by, I call them JLR, this is what they go by, Jaguar Land Rover. And they thought that we would be a good fit for the incubator program that they have going there. Their program, every 3 months, they bring in a cohort of 3 companies for a 6-month run. So you have 2 overlapping cohorts at all times. And they invited us to join them in their winter cohort. So as of the end of January, I went up to Portland and got a one-way ticket and have been working with them continuously, seeing what we are able to do to bring Mycroft technology up to the point where it can be used within the automotive world. Now, one of the reasons that Jaguar was such a good fit for us is the facility that I'm actually working at is called the OSTC, which is Jaguar's Open Source Technology Center. And the Open Source Technology Center, as its name suggests, they are really looking into how, as an organization, they can incorporate open technologies into their processes. Traditionally, the automotive world has not been friendly to doing things collaboratively. They really have been about, secretive and having a big launch and making a big splash. And this is a whole new thing for them. And as an industry, the entire automotive industry is starting to come around to the idea that some of the things that they're wanting to incorporate into cars now are not things that they can build as singular entities. They can't do it on their own. They really do need to work together. And the open source world is really appealing to them as a mechanism for them to be able to work and continue to keep their private interests private, yet have an open source implementation that they're able to experiment with and to try new technologies and to invite others to participate with them. So to support that, they created a few years ago an organization called the GENIVI Alliance. That's GENIVI, and you can go to genivi.org and look them up. This organization is made up of a lot of automotive manufacturers. Let's see, I wrote them down because I can't remember them all. So there's Jaguar Land Rover, BMW, Honda, Hyundai, Daimler, Nissan, Renault, Volvo, and those are just the bigger ones. And there are also a lot of suppliers that are part of it, including Mycroft now. We're officially members of the Geneva Alliance. So this organization, as part of the system that they've put together so that they're all able to try things out, they all have a custom platform they've developed called the GENIVI reference platform. And they each one of those companies has cars in their test labs that is able to load up this platform, which is essentially a specialized build of Linux. And they can load this platform and try it out in one of their test vehicles. So this is a mechanism for third-party organizations to join into the GENIVI Alliance, and they don't even have to join, actually. They can just pull down this platform, build a tool or a service or something like that to fit into the platform, and then any of the organization members are able to pull this down into their cars and try it out, see what it looks like. So that is the exact approach that we're taking with the Mycroft implementation. Is we're looking at, and actually we are doing, pulling Mycroft into this GENIVI platform. And that's going to allow, initially it's going to allow Jaguar to take a look at it and to see what they're able to do. And then our intention is later in the year, we'll be able to show at the GENIVI presentation, show to all the members what this technology could look like in their car, what it could look like to have a true interactive voice system in their car. The other reason this is such a good fit is from the car manufacturer's perspective. This is pretty much their #1 complaint, is this entire interaction, this entire system that actually doesn't have anything to do with the car operation in terms of driving. It's really what they call the IVI of the GENIVI, is the in-vehicle infotainment system. And that entire system is their #1 source of complaints from consumers. You know, the car drives just fine. It starts and stops and goes down the highway perfectly well, but they're spending all this time trying to get the infotainment system to work, and it just doesn't work well. It doesn't pair with cell phones well. The voice interaction systems don't work very well. And they recognize, as Jaguar Land Rover as an organization, and the automotive industry in general recognizes how bad it is. And they really, really are motivated to do something to improve the system. So bringing those two things together, Mycroft is looking to them as a very, very strong contender for a mechanism to bring this system that has been a source of complaints and make it into something that's truly usable for them. There are a couple other aspects of the Mycroft technologies in particular that stand out to them, and that I think we can do that will benefit automotive manufacturers, and they also will benefit other potential uses of the Mycroft platform. One of the biggest ones that I'm looking forward to tackling as we go down this is the ability to work in a disconnected state, and actually a hybrid of connected and disconnected. Most of the time when these cars are going down the road, and especially the models that they're talking about putting this into, which will be a few years down the road, those their internet connectivity is pretty good in urban areas. They shouldn't have any problems with that. Just like your cell phones, they're going to have good connection most of the time. However, they absolutely expect that there will be situations where the internet connection just doesn't exist. So we will use we have a couple of techniques in mind to be able to degrade gracefully and fall back to an onboard speech-to-text mechanism, allowing the verbal interactions to continue even if we're not able to get out to the internet. Obviously, it'll have to be a subset of them, but it should be, it's very easy for us to tackle, and I've got some good architectural designs. And once again, the good part about this is it's not only an automotive solution, but some of our friends like the InMove guys really interested in being able to operate robots and such in scenarios where they don't have a network connection. And being able to operate completely on board is a critical piece for them. And so I really am looking forward to being able to tackle that piece and get that capability under our belt. And Mycroft is uniquely designed as an architecture to be able to operate in that function. Some of the other voice interaction systems are heavily dependent on the cloud component, and Mycroft has, only a small piece that actually has to reach out to the cloud. And so I think that we're well suited to be able to operate in the cases where you have no connectivity. Some of the other cool things about working with the Jaguar organization there is, besides the fact that they're just really and truly wonderful people, and I would like to toss out thanks and hellos to Danielle and Andrew and Blake and Madeline, and appreciate all of the support, and Rupert, appreciate all of the support that they've given me and all the information and insights. They've been very, very open about the automotive industry and Jaguar Land Rover's organization. And it's been invaluable to us to get this sort of information and get this insight into the decision-making process of larger organizations and commercial organizations, so that we can build our technology in such a way that they are going to be able to take advantage of it. So the Portland startup scene is also really a thriving place, and they have quite a bit going on there in the way of automotive and autonomous vehicle startups. And another piece that I believe it is important for us to be able to tie into as the autonomous vehicles are being developed, it's going to be a strong way for people to interact with them. Voice is a natural interaction mechanism. And then finally, Portland has some pretty interesting technical people there. So we've got, of course, Intel is right around the corner there. And then a guy that you might know, Linus Torvalds, also lives right around the corner. And so Portland is all in all just an interesting place to hang out. I'm enjoying the people and the opportunities that I've been able to meet while I'm out there, and I look forward to continuing to work with them over the next approximately 6 months, I believe, that we're scheduled to work with them on this particular project. So getting back a little bit to important information that we're learning from this is how we are able to operate as an open source technology, how that fits into a commercial world. And this has been something that's been on my mind for some time, and I want to make sure that not only we build something that is available for everyone, but something that they are actually able to make use of. And sometimes that is guided by problems such as the licensing is a very important piece to these guys. So we are reviewing and talking to a few people about how the GPL component fits into their organizations, especially with the automotive world. GPL v3, they have a few concerns around that. With v3, for those of you who are familiar with its history, one of the pieces they put into it is what they call anti-TiVoization. This was in response to the popular TiVo DVRs. And there was a interpretation, and perfectly legitimate under GPL v2, that TiVo took advantage of. And some people did not like the fact that they were able to do sort of a hardware lock built into it, even though it was a GPL product. So that's one of the big pieces of GPL v3 was preventing that from happening. Now, when you get to the automotive industry, there is a potential problem with that, because essentially that required the end user to be able to swap out the software that's running on the hardware. Now, when you're talking about TiVo, that's a certainly legitimate request and desire to be able to get into your TiVo and hack it and do something with it as a piece of equipment that you own in your home and your infotainment system. But in a car scenario, they are very concerned about the safety aspects of that. And so if people are able to get in, and if they have to provide a mechanism, that's probably the biggest piece. If they have to provide a mechanism where people can get in and swap out the software running their car, they're as an industry, they're not certain that that is a safe thing that they can allow, and that they can produce cars with that capability and be able to push them through regulatory organizations and get their cars approved to sell to consumers. So we're seeing how we can, what we can do with licensing, and what possibilities we have to be able to make a product that is an open product, but is also available for them. We're bouncing around ideas of GPL v2, also ideas of stepping back and releasing as under Apache 2.0. There are a couple of different options that we're looking at into there. And we're going to have further discussions on this pretty soon in some of our community forums as we've got more information. We just love feedback from people on what we're doing here and let you know why we're doing this. And that is some of the background as to why we're looking into making these licensing changes. I believe that's all of the early pieces that I had to cover. I'm seeing a few questions come through I want to address. Let me read through and jump back up here. Let's see, we've got a few questions and I wanted to do an update for you guys around the Mark I. Let's see, Mark I customization. So someone's asking, is the Mark I customizable? For example, if we wanted to add a camera module, and is it possible, or do I have to buy a Raspberry Pi only? So the Mark I device, we intentionally designed it as a hackable hardware device for you. So you, if you look at our previous week's broadcast, you can see us tearing down a Mark I. It is not difficult to do. You can do it with a simple screwdriver and a little bit of care, and you can take it apart. So you do have access to anything on that Raspberry Pi, with the exception of a few of the GPIO pins that we are using to interact with the faceplate. So you can access the Raspberry Pi's camera interface, and we actually built into the base, there's some slits, and you can run cables through those slits. So it should be, you should be able to add your own camera modules and do whatever you'd like. I know a few community members have already done some experimentation with adding skills to Mycroft that incorporate visual analysis of different types. And we are looking at a few options in the future as to different ways that we can package Mark I's, make it available to you, possibly as a kit if you already have your own Raspberry Pis, things like that. We'll have more options once we get the shipping rolling for this. Let's see, I'm share another question. Someone was asking about what is my education? So my educational background, I have a BS in computer science from the University of Kansas back in 1991 when I graduated with that. And at that point, after I graduated, I went to work in the CAD industry, started working at Autodesk, and that was in the middle of the tech boom. And I had intended to go back and to do some graduate work, but honestly, I was learning more interesting stuff in the industry than I probably could have going back. And so I spent my entire career since I left the University of Kansas. I've spent my entire career in the industry, working for Autodesk for about a decade, working in CAD, the early GIS world when we were first building mapping systems, and some of the early mobile devices. This is before cell phones existed. So we're talking about the Palm Pilot days and the Pocket PC days, and the compact iPac, excuse me, not the iPad, and building some of the first systems where we were playing with touch interfaces and with, I worked with some of actually the first Windows tablet PC. We were working with Microsoft and building demo devices for their launch event, interacting with those as their early speech API to be able to do voice. At that point, it was just command and control. That was 1999, I believe, when I was doing that, maybe 2000 or so. We were working with voice interaction with Windows devices. Then subsequent to that, I worked in the biotech industry with Gene Network Systems, now known as GNS Healthcare, doing cancer and heart research work. And then after that, I've been working, I worked in the traffic industry, doing intelligent traffic control systems at Rhythm Engineering. And then the last 2.5 years, I've been pursuing this voice interaction world. Let's see, someone was asking, what would I advise someone to get their education in if they want to focus on AGI? I assume you mean AI research. That's an interesting question. I'm not 100% sure. I've been out of the educational world for 25 years, so I know that at the time I was doing this, computer science at the University of Kansas was actually under the College of Liberal Arts and Science as part of the mathematics world. The mathematics department there. So there has been a lot of modification to programs out there, and I'm not sure if I can give you a really good suggestion as to AG, artificial general intelligence. Okay. I don't know if I can recommend a specific program that I don't have. I'm afraid I don't have a good knowledge in general with education. And with college educations, the things that I would suggest, however, is don't rely on your college to teach you how to actually do stuff. That's up to you. The college experience is about learning how to think critically, how to learn how to solve problems. They're not going to solve the problems for you. And all of the most interesting work that I did in college, as far as actual programming work, was things I was doing in my own dorm room at 3 a.m. You have a unique opportunity during those college years to really, immerse yourself into your own personal projects and to get involved with open source projects. Didn't quite exist at the time I was doing this back in the late 80s. It was just, that concept was just evolving. But building your own pieces or joining in a larger project and helping them, you're going to learn so much about collaboration, about working in teams, and absorb a lot of knowledge on specific systems from a project that is something that calls to you as an individual. And I highly recommend finding something that is a personal skill and just diving into, or personal interest, and just diving into that. And it'll be a sink or swim experience, and you're surely going to screw up while you're doing it, but you're going to learn a ton. And that's what's really going to get you into a place that you're truly enjoying your work and that you're able to contribute to the world. Let's see, I think, if we got any other questions outstanding? All right, I think that covers all of the questions here. And we are approaching the end of this broadcast time. So see if anyone else has a last minute question. Someone's typing. So someone was asking if I think going to business school is useful to start a tech company. That's a loaded question. I just heard a few people discussing this. It is one of those cases where coming out of business school, they really had no clue how to do a startup. They said that this is secondhand, as I have not attended a business school, but my secondhand report of what I was hearing is that you go to business school to be very good at working in an existing organization. If you want to go into certain pieces of the organization, they're really good at training you, bringing you up to speed on what you need to fulfill the needs of a mid to large sized company organization. A startup is a different beast, and business schools that they had attended, the MBA programs, didn't really prepare them for that. And some of them had, one or two people in particular said they wish that they had not invested the time that they put into the business school degree, that they really wish they'd jumped right into the startup instead and learned what they needed to learn, and then later on tried to go after those pieces and fill in the blanks down the road. Let's see, another question I have before, but I wonder if the knowledge from an MBA would be useful. You know, the knowledge from an MBA probably would be useful, and that's one of the hard things about startup world and being in the startup life is you need to know a lot of stuff, and most of the time you don't even know what the stuff is that you're going to need to know until the moment you need it. And then if you're lucky, you know what that information is, you've already learned it and you can just apply it. If you're unlucky, you get to scramble and spend the next few hours becoming a subject matter expert in whatever the particular problem of the day is. More information is always good to have, but don't attend a business school, MBA programming, expecting that you're going to be suddenly prepared to be the perfect founder of a startup. It's going to be a struggle no matter what you do there. Got another question. Someone asking, does Mycroft enable speech recognition on Linux platforms? Yes, it does. In particular, right now, if you are running, we've got people running it on Ubuntu systems, on Fedora systems, on Arch Linux. The Yocto Linux is what GENIVI is built on top of. So the Mycroft system is built, it is built around the concept of Linux systems. It understands that world and it works well in it. Today, you are going to have to go put in a little extra effort to get it running if you are not in, probably the easiest one to get going is Ubuntu. We've got pretty solid installation instructions on how to pull it down from GitHub and get everything configured and up and running. If you're on a different Linux flavor, you may have to go to a little extra effort today. As we move forward, that's one of our focuses, is making it as easy as possible to get Mycroft up and available for even those who are not technically knowledgeable hacker types. Okay, I think that has covered all the outstanding questions for now, and I see that we've hit the end of our time slot, so I'm going to thank everyone for joining me for today and for participating and for following Mycroft, and we appreciate your support, and I would encourage all of you to join us, come join our Slack channel, and come join our community forums. Truly, we want input. We want the more people we hear things from, the more we can incorporate into what we're doing and how we are doing it. So come to mycroft.ai and you will get information on how to connect with us on all the different mechanisms, our community channels and our Slack community forums and our Slack channels. And I look forward to talking to you there. Thanks.